Today we are in conversation with an entrepreneur who builds business not only on ideas but also on purpose. Mr. Mihir Karkare, who is the co-founder of Social Wavelength and Meru Life. Beyond the boardroom, he is a father of two beautiful daughters, which perhaps explain why he ensures that businesses are also built where we create impact. Mihir represents generation of founders who only not look at scale, speed or revenue, but also human values. Today's conversation is not only about business, it's about leadership, life and perspective. Mihir, thank you so much for being a part of the podcast.
My pleasure. Absolute pleasure to be here.
Great. So how have you been? Let's just start. How's life? How's everything going currently?
Everything is going amazing. We, like you mentioned in the intro, I started a new venture last year, and a few weeks back we actually launched our flagship product, which is essentially nutrition products for people beyond their 50s. Okay. So that's a very recent launch for us. So as you can imagine, there's a whole lot of things going on related to the launch. Very, very exciting times.
Right, great. So, just before we actually start talking about Meru Life, the impact that it's going to create, I would actually want, if you can run us through your childhood, in terms of what is the kind of inspiration, what is the kind of life you had back, when you were growing up, what is the kind of environment you got at home, was it too studious, was it very technical? If you can just give us a run through on that.
Sure, absolutely. My childhood from the earliest days I remember has genuinely been one of tremendous privilege. And I don't mean privilege from a point of view of like money or whatever it is. I don't think that's true, but it was privilege from the point of view of the kind of family I grew up in, I was born in. My parents were, they were very driven by doing the right thing, having the right values. They were very focused on education. They were very focused on, how you treat others around you and so on and so forth. The more I've seen the world, I have learned to recognize being born in a family like this as a true privilege. That's the privilege I'm talking about. So, not just my parents, my grandparents, both sets of in fact, I was so lucky. My dad's parents I used to stay in their house, and my mom's parents were one building away. So got to have that lovely experience of having both sets of grandparents, literally at a call. And I went to a school which was, again, whether it was school, whether it was college, whether it was all the experiences thereafter, I think one of the things that happened in my childhood was I got a lot of exposure to so many different aspects of life. I was pretty good at studies. I was not very studious. I think these are two different things, but I think I was pretty good at studies. I had a lot of other interests beyond that also. So thankfully got a lot of exposure. Again, something that was encouraged by my parents, and that helped a lot, as I grew up, as I became a grown up. Having those experiences and that exposure was really, really helpful for me. I don't know, I keep saying that, some of the things that my dad was, he was an engineer in another field, but he got into IT like very, very early days of IT. Okay. So I've been around like computers from when I was a baby, basically. And so things like Google, now we think Google kya hai yaar? Matlab, but when it was like super new, I got exposed to that, and I feel like, I don't know, some large percentage of my life is because I can do Google search as well, or I can, I can access information well, and now of course that carries forward with all the fancy new AI tools that are there. But I had a great childhood. I thank the stars every single day for that, and I just hope I can live up to the privilege that I've been happy to receive.
Got it. So Amir, you mentioned, so I would want the audience or whoever sees this probably, just to define, we might be talking to someone who's thinking in his head that what would be my next step in my career, or someone who's even at a student level, trying to define his career. When we are saying, and for which I would, want to slightly deep dive into what kind of, whether it is pressures, whether it is expectations as a child that someone feels, and probably some of us would be parents who would be looking at it and must be thinking that what do I do right to get my kids in the right direction. So when you say that it was privilege but not money, one aspect always is that you are born with a silver spoon and you've got a great capital to build something, right? And the other is privileges of expression, privileges of, whether you can really pretty much have a balanced life. So according to you, what was that privilege that, sort of defined you?
Yeah. So, yeah, just to again reiterate, when I say privilege, I don't necessarily mean I was born with a silver spoon in the mouth, right? That's not the case. There's also one element that, when you ask me a question, it's also the lens with which I look at that question, right? So, it'll be very tough for somebody to get a negative perspective out of me, because I'm generally a grateful person. I'm generally a person who looks at what's the best that comes out of a situation, right? So, I will not make a sob story because it's more dramatic. I will not look at a thing. So generally आप मेरे को पूछोगे तो I will say बहुत ही मतलब I'm generally a grateful person. What I mean by privilege is there was thankfully there was not a situation in my life where my parents stopped me from doing something. My parents there was some sort of a situation where I had to fight and convince my parents, and then them not getting convinced. Like my wife, now wife, that time girlfriend. So when I told my parents that there is a girl that I like and so on and so forth, they said, "Chalo ice cream khate hain," sort of thing, right? I mean, it was there was no kind of what are you doing and वैसा नहीं था. So I mean, if this is not privilege, what is? So what I'm referring to as privilege is that I got an opportunity to grow up in a place where there was a lot of exposure, there was a lot of the conversations I had with my parents and so on and so forth was very open, very accepting. That's what I'm referring to as privilege, more than any sort of material or money or whatever it is. Another privilege is it's like I keep hearing stories about my dad and my granddad and his dad. So this is an interesting story. Okay, so my granddad's dad, he was this must have been in the 1920s. Okay. So he was a lawyer and he had an opportunity to I think the British government had offered him the role of some judicial position, which would have made him incredibly wealthy and so on and so forth. But that was around the time or a few years after Lokmanya Tilak had given the call for any kind of nationalist Indian to do something for the nation, not serve the British government and so on. So my great grandfather, he gave up that opportunity and he decided to start a school in Jalgaon, and that school still exists. It's 100 plus years old now. I think it's called Lana Sarvajanik School, and similar story. So this was a person who kind of lived his life for the betterment of others, to the significant monetary detriment of his family, because there was no money in this path that he chose. And I hear similar stories of how my granddad, my dad have been extremely selfless. And somewhere this privilege I'm talking about also is this borrowed karma I get from being part of being their child, because it rubs onto you when people meet you. They somewhere associate that, oh, this is this person's son or grandson or great grandson. So again, privilege is the way you look at it. Like, my perspective is always to look at something from that grateful and gratitude kind of element. And second is this is also phenomenal privilege. I mean, being when I meet a complete stranger but he's known my granddad, there will be some reflected karma that I will receive. So yeah.
And I mean, considering, there was a small, very big academic sort of legacy, so to say, coming from a family where there are lawyers, engineers, etc. As a child, did you feel the pressure, that, okay, mujhe, or, from the parents' lens, it was like quite open, that, okay, marks important hai, but sab kuch nahi hai. You have to also look at.
No, so parental pressure to nahi tha, genuinely. Okay. But the environment is such that studies is very important. Scholastic achievement is very important. So again, it's like, the same thing can be, I can imagine, and I know people now who are, they are born into a sports family, or they are born into a family which is, you see so many, like doctor ke family mein paida hua, right? So there is it's not, I mean, in my case at least, it was not a pressure, but there was, the environment was such that this is a very important part of your life. Right, so that's what.
And how were you as a student? Like, how would you look at it?
I was good. I was not very studious, but I was good at studies. I think that's the way. If I would have, I mean, sometimes I feel if I would have been more studious, more disciplined, outcome could have been even better from a scholastic standpoint. But I was quite good just off the bat. Yeah.
Okay. So, right from schooling, etc., was there a point that you decided, that, okay, abhi I have to do engineering, I have to do this. So from a decision making point, was there an influence, or was there a thought, or was it like a wave, like, okay, this is what I have to do by default?
Yeah, so I think engineering was kind of by default. Like, मुझे पता था, computer engineering भी पता था मुझे काफ़ी हद तक. Like I did my, where I did my 11th or 12th, I had decent marks, so I got that vocational, so I gave up biology. तो clear था कि engineering की तरफ जाना है. I took electronics in 11th and 12th as a vocational subject, because electronics, at least the thought process then was, that was the highest cutoff, plus the thought process then was, abhi electronics लोगे तो आगे you can make a choice. And then I got computer science, and I was happy with computer science, because that's what I wanted. उसके बाद, like post my graduation, I did both. I studied for the GRE also. I did well in that GRE entrance. I did well in the MBA entrance also. That was a time when I was like split two ways. I was good at the technical stuff. I was good at the MBA entrance stuff also. So I didn't know what to do. But then out of syllabus thing came, which is that I got the opportunity to start Social Wavelength exactly at that time. Right. And that's when I took a call saying that, okay, I'll put my post-graduation on pause. This is a great opportunity. I want to take that up. Right. So I took up entrepreneurship, and post-graduation didn't end up happening, because what I thought, I mean, I was getting into entrepreneurship, I didn't know where it would go, and I ran that company along with my partners for 16 years. Right. So then, that post-graduation kind of got left by the wayside. But yeah, till engineering things were by default. Post engineering, I was like deciding kya karna hai, and then this out of syllabus.
Got it. So we'll get on to how after the entrepreneurship, when you took that up. Today, I think a lot of people, and I think it still exists somewhere in India, though I think it's opened up in terms of alternate careers, in terms of following passion. However, I believe there is still a notion, to a large part of audience, that if you want to be successful, it has to be, you have to become an engineer, you have to become a doctor. I personally feel that people need to evaluate. Like, one learning that I want to take from this is, you knew you were good at technical stuff. You already had some sort of validation because you had an engineer at home. So you probably knew the roadmap, or you must have seen it from a distance. Plus the access to computers, etc., probably geared that up. Someone who's making that decision now, that kya karu? Do I just go with the flow because I think engineers do well, or I should really evaluate and see something else works? What would you say, that would be an ideal thing to do?
Honestly, in 2026, this is everything is just completely blown apart with all of these LLMs coming up, and the way these LLMs are being applied. And especially, you have agents, people are saying that we'll go close to AGI in the next few years. Right. Honestly, nobody knows. Right. What I keep hearing about, which makes the most sense to me, is, being able to two things, two skills, or maybe they are not skills, they are meta skills. They are which are super critical. One is being able to learn new things very quickly. That's a meta skill that you need to develop. How do you learn to learn? So, that's probably going to be super important. And the second thing which is going to be super important is, how do you develop agency? And we are both agency folks, so not that agency, but agency means how do you develop the ability to evaluate options, make a decision, follow through on that decision, ensure that an outcome happens. ये जो agency बोलते हैं, मतलब the ability to execute, the ability to get things done. These are two kind of meta skills that I would encourage everybody to develop in themselves or in their kids, for that matter.
So just drawing from your conversation, if you can just elaborate on, what exactly do you mean from a process point of view to getting to a result? Just break it down and just let the audience know.
Got it. So let's say that we are talking about our own kids, right? Our daughters. You have 2 daughters. I have 2 daughters. Like, how do we plan what career should they take, and so on and so forth. What I'm saying is, sitting today, maybe a couple of years away from AGI, or if not AGI, at least these AI systems becoming so powerful, and then these AI systems being coupled with highly functional robotic systems, so even physical tasks can be done by AI. So sitting today, when these technologies are like just around the corner, can we predict what is it that our daughter should study now so that they are set for their lives? We can't predict, right? We have to accept that, and we have to fully internalize that. Ki predict to karne se raha, right? So then what do we do? Whatever I have been able to figure out, I think there's 2 meta skills, which are skills about skills, or skills about work, that we need them to develop, so that whatever this future looks like, they will be able to navigate their future easily. So what are these 2 meta skills? The first meta skill is the ability to learn new things. You have to learn the ability to learn new things quickly and effectively. And there are techniques to do that. There are books about it. There's whatever it is, right? So today, for example, if I'm starting a business which I am not from, or if I'm taking up a career which my background is not there, how do I quickly level up my own understanding, my own capabilities in that field? That's something that is very important. And the second skill is the skill of agency. So agency, if I have to explain, is like, if you play a role-playing game, if you play Grand Theft Auto, तो उसमें एक तो there's a character that you are controlling, and there's a NPC, एक non-playing character है. So non-playing character के पास कुछ agency नहीं है. That will behave whatever is the code for that character, वो वैसे का वैसा behave करेगा. But the character that is being controlled by the player has agency, right? He has a mission to complete. He decides how to get there. He plans something. He executes. He reaches. Maybe he loses the way, but then he is able to quickly calibrate, figure out what is the change of path, and then go, right? So that skill is called agency. So agency means not being a non-playing character, being a non-player character, being someone who is the player, who understands how to achieve a goal, how to, if you get stuck, how do you get out of that situation, if you get lost, how to recalibrate yourself. तो ये skill sets, so this combined with the ability to learn, I think ये अगर दो skill sets है किसी इंसान के पास, that's the only way you will be able to navigate. Otherwise, imagine you stick to something कि नहीं अच्छा मुझे तो you know doctor बनना है. You don't know what will be the future where surgery is all being done you know by a AI enabled robot or whatever it is, right? I mean you will need doctors and you may still need them in some way, shape or form in that whole value chain, but maybe you don't need as many as you need today, or maybe you need them in a very different context compared to what they are today. So predict करना difficult है. Therefore, you know you pick up these skills, and then other than that you let them, I guess, follow their own curiosities and instincts and so on. That's the way that I would look at it. Yeah.
Great. So I mean, if you know, I have to summarize it, or in a way, just to reinforce this, like I have been a very big fan of MS Dhoni. In advertising, you get an opportunity to work with a lot of celebs, but Dhoni is someone who I really look upon from a celebrity point of view, not because, you know, he's won the World Cup, won ICC tournaments, or he's got a bike collection, or, you know, whatever achievements he's done. Probably because he's the only celeb that has created an impact on my life, which somewhere I feel he almost operates borderline in a spiritual zone, where he's not completely attached, but he's also able to see a, you know, a picture or a CCTV sort of image of himself on the ground, and he's trying to figure out that, okay, what do I do next, right? What is the other person going to do, and what is, finally I want to win, but okay, this is how I'm going to play it. And he's very quiet, shant about it, and he's like continuously working. And that also somewhere links to being great leaders, right? So, and this somewhere becomes the human values that you sort of incorporate in terms of how do you get along with 20 people, 50 people, and then come to a particular output. You might do something on your own, and like you said, there might be some non-playing character, or there would be other skill sets that you need to utilize and then get to that place. That's more critical, is what essentially would come from a human value point of view. I think the other part is like, sometimes I feel it is important to not know a lot of things. You know, when you have that mindset that, okay, yaar, mujhe to malum nahi hai, to mujhe seekhna hai. And one of the great examples that I give is during lockdown, when we were not getting money in terms of ATM being locked up and stuff like that. A lot of people were moving out of the ATM sitting out of order. And in one of the ATMs, there was one guy who went in, very evidently someone who's not, you know, into the white collar universe. And someone told him that, acha, ye to band hai ATM. So he said, acha, main try to karta hu. And he went and he came back with the 2,000 rupees. So he said that mindset, because he said, acha, I am not, you know, in the conventional education mindset. So probably that mindset will help me keep learning more. And if you're not being into a mold and just being curious throughout your life, might help you in sort of moving forward. Right?
Oh, 100%. I think, you know, there is a, you know, this, there's this concept called neuroplasticity, right? So basically, and because we end up working with people in their 50s and beyond a lot more, you know, there is a, so neuroplasticity is supposed to reduce as you grow older. Neuroplasticity is your brain's ability to form new patterns and you know, adapt itself to new learnings and so on and so forth, right? That's what neuroplasticity is. We see a lot of people today who are really fighting back against this so-called decline of neuroplasticity. If you can do that effectively, and that's where this lifelong learning and lifelong curiosity plays a role. It is actually linked to delaying other symptoms of aging also, right? Because your brain literally remains young in that sense. So yeah, you have to have this curious learning kind of attitude throughout your life, and it is, I mean, at some point in time maybe it was a good to have, but with the advent of the kind of technologies we are seeing today, it's going to become an imperative. You have to take that approach. Yeah. Otherwise humans will be disintermediated from the whole this thing. Yeah.
Got it. Great. So me just addressing that phase where when you completed your engineering and you said you were looking at masters, and you get this opportunity where you get to create something. Can you talk us through that opportunity a little in detail? Because I think a lot of people today think about, okay, should I start, should I not start, do I do something on my own, when do I start, right? And then there is a lot of comfort in thinking that okay, let me just do monthly sort of work and I get a fixed amount and let the life progress and we'll see later what happens. So in your case, how did that happen? What was the opportunity? How did you react, and how did it move forward?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think that was the time. So let me paint the picture. So this was 2009. iPhone had just come out. So just so that I can give people a context of where we were. There was no real, what the things which are very, very common today. There was no Insta, Facebook was not on mobile. Orkut was still a thing. That's the time. This is.
I think half of the people who are seeing the podcast
may not even
know Orkut.
know what Orkut is, right? So, okay. What I was doing at this time was I was preparing for my post graduation entrance exams. I was working, and me and my then girlfriend, now wife, we also were very interested in this entrepreneurship and so on and so forth. So what we did was, the iPhone was just announced in 2008, I think. Okay. 2007, 2008, and then along with the iPhone, Apple had launched this iPod Touch, which was like same like an iPhone but without the phone. So it was an iPod. Right. And me and my wife bought probably one of India's first iPod Touches, and we bought a Mac Mini, which was also I think a new product back then, which is the Mac without the screen. Right. And we learned iPhone development, and what we did is we started teaching other like software development companies how to make iPhone apps. So maybe they were making Java apps, right, or they were making Symbian apps. So we started a small quasi business of our own, and we did that for a few months. So while my job was going on, while I was preparing for my entrance exams, this was like a side gig that we were doing. I was quite into this whole entrepreneurship thing. I used to volunteer for this startup Saturday, which used to happen in Andheri. So I was quite into that. The startup and all was not as fun and fancy and all that as it is now, right? It was very early days, 2008-9, and then that was the time when, in fact, at a startup Saturday. So people often ask me, do these startup events and all that, does that help, and networking and all that? In my case, absolutely, the answer is an unequivocal no. The answer is an unequivocal yes. Right. So I was at a startup Saturday, and that time he was not my partner. I didn't know who he was. Sanjay was there at the startup Saturday, and he said that my name is Sanjay and I'm going to start a social media agency. And social media management company, actually he called it. And that was another topic which was like raging in my head, ki social media is such an emerging thing, kuch karna chahiye. So I said, I'm going to meet this guy in the break. That was my intro only. My name is Mihir, I'm going to meet Sanjay in the break. Aisa maine khud ka intro diya. And Sanjay left in the break, so I didn't get to meet him. Okay. And then whatever destiny played its cards, and then I happened to meet Sanjay in a very different context. And he said, yeah, I'm going to start. And here I was preparing for my whatever entrance exams. I was doing this gig with my girlfriend, this iPod touch programming, iPhone programming. I was working somewhere, and this opportunity came along, and I just said I have to do it. And you know, my parents were very supportive. Girlfriend / wife was very supportive. Her mom was very supportive. I mean, imagine, you know, होने वाला दामाद जॉब छोड़ रहा है, so जॉब छोड़ रहा है, future education को hold पे डाल रहा है, but she was, thankfully, my parents, my mother-in-law, my wife, everybody was very supportive, and I took it on. Where so Sanjay and Harish, my partners, they were already very experienced entrepreneurs. So they had started a company back in, they are much older, they are in their 60s now, so they are, for my new business, they are my target audience. But back then they had started a business together in 97, which had gotten acquired in 2007, and then they were professionals for a few years at very, very senior C-level posts, and they were starting their new business in 2009, which is when I joined them as co-founder. To their credit, they found it, I mean, they trusted me because I was very young. I had no work ex or whatever, 1 year of work ex or whatever it is, but to their credit, they trusted me. And we started that company back in 2009 as a social media management company. The agency word was not even in the mix, because what shape will it take? Will it take the shape of an agency? Will it take the shape more closer to like a KPO? Will it become more like a technology services company? वो भी पता नहीं था. We just knew that there was this whole sea change in how communication and publishing and all of that is happening, where for the first time communication was becoming two-way. It was not just brands and companies who were talking at the audience, but the audience could talk back and could really, really exert influence on the largest brands in the country, in the world. That was happening for the first time. So we knew we had to do something in that space. What shape it would take evolved over time. But yeah, that's how that the initial starting was.
Okay. And how did it happen? Like, did you go and say, like, I'm on board for to build something, or, you know, if you can just run me through what was the conversation like
with Sanjay and Harish?
Yeah.
So this is again, you know, this is literally, this is you know, out of some you know, rom-com movie में होता है ना, हीरो हीरोइन कहीं पे मिल जाते हैं serendipity से. This is in that zone. This is nothing less than that. Okay, so what happened is that so I had said in that Startup Saturday that my name is Mihir, I'm going to meet Sanjay in the break. So Sanjay would have been like, who is this guy, you know? And then I did end up meeting him. Then what happened is that my dad, he was, my dad's boss was in town. My dad's boss used to be in the US, he was in town. And I used to tell my dad that for your company, you all should use social media to promote your products. Okay? So my dad said, okay, why don't you make a presentation? I'll share it with him, he's in town. So I said, okay. So I made one presentation and I gave it to my dad, and my dad shared it with his boss. And then few days later I asked, kya hua? You know, it had happened. So my dad said that my boss's friend also gave a very similar presentation, or had a very similar meeting with my boss, which was about using social media to promote your products and so on. So my boss found it very interesting. So he asked me to send the presentation to that other person who has also spoken about the same thing. So I sent it. So, you know, it's like conflict of interest, na? वो तो मेरा competitor होगा. That's what I mean. In a lighter note, I said, okay, who is this person? First of all, I'm surprised that in 2009, must be like whatever, Jan-Feb 2009, there is one more person talking about social media who happens to be like connected to my, you know, in this space. So my dad was like, I don't remember his name. And then he came back and saying, after, I think he checked his notes or whatever, he said, I think Sanjay Mehta his name was. I was like, what? I said, I want to meet him. So my dad said, okay, well, set up a meeting. So then my dad's boss invited me and my dad to his house for breakfast, and invited Sanjay also for breakfast while he was in India. So he's usually in the US. So I met the same guy, same Sanjay who I had met. So probably, I don't know if he registered, but I told him, ki Sanjay, this is what happened at that Startup Saturday. So Sanjay and me got talking, um, and so Sanjay had already moved on from his previous role where he was a CEO of a company based out of Delhi. Harish was still with his previous company where he was a president there. And I had a conversation with them, and in one of the conversations, Sanjay asked me that, if you're looking at doing this, what is the space that you're looking at? Are you looking at it as a job change? Are you looking at it as entrepreneurship? Are you looking at it as somewhere in the middle? I didn't even think. I said entrepreneurship. This is, I want to run. I mean, I want to come on board as a.
Right. So you were very clear that you would want to own a piece of it and not.
It was somehow that clarity was there for sure. And again, so of course, now because there was a connect and all that, they also felt okay, they found it probably easier to trust. If I was a completely like unknown quantity, then maybe it would have been difficult. But yeah, it worked out, and yeah, that's how it was. So it was like straight out of some movie script, that's how it happened. Yeah.
So okay, so when this conversation happened and you expressed, what was Social Wavelength's strength back then? Like, was it just starting off, or did they have sort of some client they were still trying to figure out?
No. This was literally there was nothing. There was no Social Wavelength back then. When I spoke to Sanjay, there was no Social Wavelength. I was still in my previous job. I went and told my boss that I need to. This is an opportunity. I can't wait to get started. So at that time, I used to I must have had like a month's notice or whatever. Weekdays I was working. Weekends I was in the Social Wavelength office in Chembur, and we hired a couple of people. The first 2 folks. And then they quit in like a day or so because they also could not, it was so new, it was so conceptually new. So we absolutely from zero. So it was for many weeks, it was Sanjay and me in that office, and then we hired from day one. There was no Social Wavelength back then. Sanjay had thought of the name though, and I think he had registered the company.
Okay.
But I was a fan of the name. The moment he told me, I was like, wow, this is amazing. Yeah.
Lovely. So how was it during the initial phase? Like, if because again, a lot of people would probably have this thought, that okay, and it can be agency world, it can be any other business, so to say. But if you have to talk about, what are the challenges that comes, or is there a specific mindset that you jump on to when you take up entrepreneurship, and how do you ride that wave? So I'm sure it must have not been ke chalu ki and ye rahe clients, and there might have been like a journey towards it.
Yeah. So of course, clients. What we were able to do is we were able to go after clients who themselves were early adopters, who themselves were the kind of people who would say कुछ नया है तो करके देखते हैं क्या आता है, right? That's how you do. I mean, every client we had to almost always do a concept sell कि ये social media होता क्या है, business इसको क्यों, why should businesses be thinking about social media? A lot of clients, especially we are talking to the decision maker, if they were in their 40s or 50s at that time, they used to say, हाँ मेरा बच्चा कुछ use करता है social media. I mean, that was their connect with social media. Today people of all ages are using it, right? That time it had not penetrated as much. So we had to do a concept sell कि ये क्यों important है, why you should be worrying about it. And there were enough and more from the Western world, lot of case studies and all that had started coming. There was a case where United Airlines, they broke the guitar of a musician. I forgot the musician's name, and he made a video and posted it on a very new video site called YouTube back then, 2-3-year-old site, and that was one of the first things that went viral. And the United Airlines share price declined by like $100 million, and then the CEO had to come on news and apologize, and the song was called United Breaks Guitars. Anybody can, it's still there, you can go on YouTube and watch it. So we could use these examples and say ki boss, consumers ka awaaz, there is, it is no longer restricted to 5 friends I can tell it to, right? And so the early adopter clients, they could, to their credit, immediately relatively easily get what we were talking about, and then they signed up. And then what ended up happening was, from that end of 2009, early 2010 onwards, it became, the hype around social media was unreal. It is like the hype around AI today, or the hype around crypto was few years back, or before that hype around apps. It was like a, we were closing clients in like, ek meeting jao, client signs up, that zone. Which was, if you are able to talk to the client, explain logically, client is signed up by end of that meeting. And of course, Sanjay Harish were themselves stalwarts, right? Like they had done businesses before. So they were able to also do sales well and so on and so forth. And we genuinely, we benefited significantly from that wave of
Got it. And how did you all reach the clients? Like, was it like still the old classic way? Was it, the network? How did that
so I think initially what we did is we did the old fashioned way, through some connect or whatever it is. But to be very honest, we did not have to do, after the hype cycle kind of became really big, almost everything was inbound, because of the reputation we were able to build, the reputation Sanjay and Harish were able to build in the market, especially because they became like very well known figures in the industry. And also what ended up happening was, we were very clear about the fact that we are dhanda karne aaye, right? So what we did was, there were a lot of then very big agencies who refused to do social media and almost looked at social media as some sort of mazduri or what, I don't know, like they didn't want to take that up, right? They were focused on that big, fancy
big
ad
films
film
and
or whatever it is, right? So we were very happy to tie up with them and say ki, theek hai, you have 4 brands, we'll do social media for all 4 of them. And we did like tons of business where we were basically the social media partners for any big agency in the country. We were doing a lot of work with a lot of agencies. So that really helped us, because that's you like if you do a good tie up with an agency, unke 2, 3, 4, 5 brands ek sath aapko mil jate hain, and that allows you to scale your business and so on and so on. So
and how did you all get the talent? Like, was it more of, because it was at a nascent stage, was it a lot of youngsters coming in and then you all were training them? And what was the, the KRA at back then? Was it presence and more visibility on that platform?
Yeah. So talent was, there was no social media talent to tha hi nahi, right? Correct. We had to hire laterals and train them on social media, right? So if we hired a creative person, for example, they would not understand the social, the way social media worked. So we had to train them. Many of them are still in that company after 16, 17 years, right? So we kind of upskill a lot of folks. Over time, when we became bigger and we kind of realized that to scale further, then we hired a fantastic leadership team. But in those early days, yeah, it was all hiring like that. You asked another question other than talent also. What was
and what was the KRA or the deliverables,
right,
so to say?
So honestly, back then many deliverables were just being present on the platform and maintaining an active page. Facebook page at that particular point in time was very different compared to what we saw in so many years. We saw business evolve. Many times that evolution was because the platforms themselves were evolving. So ek zamane mein Facebook pe you didn't even have to put images, you could put text updates, and those text updates would, suppose you had 50,000 followers on a page, they would reach all 50,000 followers.
Right. So
because
100% organic.
100% organic. Organic was insane. So then there was I mean, we were incentivized to post multiple times a day. You know, we used to work with a lot of the Star TV channels, Star Network channels, and there was a time when for, you know, Star Plus had these shows. We had created character pages for many of the big shows ka characters, and on each of those pages there used to be multiple posts every single day, and all of them used to get organic reach, and it was a very different world back then. So back then it was about you know, making sure that the presence was there. It was an active presence. We were posting regularly. Five times we used to post a day. Can you imagine? And now you don't even post like once in 5 days, because now the game is very different. Now the game is great creative media. That's what the game has evolved into. But tabhi it was a different world.
Right. So after this happened, you know, and probably the early movers advantage, you know, helped you all. What was the timeline, you know, where you all really peaked, and was there a challenge in between, you know, which got you all thinking that yaar yahan tak to aa gaye, ab kya? Or did you all get stuck anywhere because of competition, because probably other bigger agencies realized abhi ye pie to bada hote ja raha hai, you know, and I have to also think about it.
So I mean, there were of course challenges along the way, no doubt about it. There were, see, the thing about this business was barrier to entry was very low, right? So pretty much every single day there was somebody kind of saying, oh, I'm a social media agency, and basically it was you know, couple of people running it out of a spare room sort of thing, right? So that was, or a cafe or whatever it is. So there were, I mean, challenges to bahut the. I think what helped us was the fact that and again that came from Sanjay and Harish's mature leadership and whatever little I was able to bring to the table. But you know, there was a certain way that we made things process oriented. We made things, we made playbooks, SOPs. I can very confidently say many of the playbooks and SOPs that are you know, being run in social media teams of the largest agencies in the country were built in those days at Social Wavelength by us, right? Because those are the people who became leaders in other agencies and so on, right? So a lot of that stuff happened there, and that really allowed us to, like, when a brand chose us, they chose us because they knew ki haan, great work will happen, and it will happen, right? In a lot of cases, especially in those, you know, the people who are entering because there's no barrier for entry, that was a massive challenge. So we ended up doing great work. We signed on great clients, and one of the you know, the way this gets reflected is we have had very, very long-term relationships with so many different stakeholders, right? So many of our people have been with us for, I mean, now I'm no longer there, but while I was there, there were people who've been with us for 16 years and 15 years and 14 years and 13 years and 12, like long stints with us. And that was for a relatively, like, for a startup in that industry and with a relatively young, significantly young team, it was quite unheard of, right? So we had several people with long stints, several clients who were there with us for similar time frames, you know, 16 years, 15 years, 14 years, whatever it is. Even the WPP relationship, when we got acquired and all of that, started much before the acquisition, and we were probably the leadership team that stayed with WPP the longest, even post acquisition. So we've had these long lasting, very, very mutually beneficial relationships with multiple different stakeholders in the ecosystem. So that's really helped us, right? So yeah, so to answer the second part of your question, when did we peak? So what ended up happening was this period of, you know, we caught two waves in that time frame, right? The first wave we caught was the social media wave from 2010 to 2013, 14. 14 we got acquired by WPP, so WPP got a majority stake in our company, and we continued there. I left in 2025, so almost 11 years after acquisition. It was a very long time, and we grew the company like 10x in that time frame. So it was great for WPP, great for us, for everyone. We caught one more wave also. We, around the 2017-18 time frame, we figured out that technology would play a very increasingly large role in marketing. So we built at that point in time one of the first MarTech practices in the country, and that was another kind of wave that we grew, to the extent that when I moved on from the company last year, 70% of our revenue was actually coming from MarTech. So we actually rejigged the portfolio of the business to be doing a lot of technology and MarTech work as well.
Okay. So can you define what kind of work was that, and how did you all, change the approach, or how did that function?
So there was a report which I think Gartner or somebody put out in 2015 or so. This was for the Western world, that in 2 years at that time, CMOs would spend more money on technology than CIOs, and that was like a aha moment for the whole marketing world. कैसे होगा ये इसलिए होगा because the shift towards digital was so real, and the role that technology platforms played in digital marketing was so large that CMOs would end up investing significantly in technology. And we kind of took heed of that, and we and what are these technology platforms? These are typically marketing automation platforms. The DMPs were there, then now of course CDPs are there, then there were DXPs, a lot of these different acronyms, but each of them is a technology platform finally at the end of the day. So we built capabilities on those technology platforms. We in fact partnered with Salesforce, which is a fantastic technology company, a lot of things to learn from them, and we partnered with them for their marketing cloud platform. And that marketing cloud platform, we were their first partner in India. In fact, before they had an India marketing cloud team, we had partnered with them in Singapore, and we used to kind of buy licenses from Singapore and sell them to Indian clients. And then we built a whole practice around Salesforce's technology products. The common thing was these were all marketing products. So Salesforce's traditional products are not in marketing, they are in sales and service CRM. But we built a whole practice around their marketing products. Then we expanded our portfolio beyond Salesforce and all of that. But so that again was a kind of like a wave which we caught.
Got it. Perfect. So, I mean, what I can take is obviously you all were not stuck to one conventional initiative that you all started, and you all were ready to shift as per the marketing trend. So that is
in fact one of the things that we were kind of known for even post acquisition within the WPP ecosystem is almost every year we used to seed some sort of a new practice. So we and that allowed us to kind of round out our capabilities. So we had media in-house, we built media capabilities in-house, we had technology I already mentioned, we had social listening, which was a USP of ours for many years, where we used to use these social listening tools to figure out what conversations are happening about our client brands and help our clients navigate that ecosystem. We had MarTech, which I already mentioned. Post COVID, I think in that 2020-2021 time frame, we started doing a lot of work in healthcare marketing, and we built a pretty sizable practice in that domain also. So we had kind of we had this thing of constantly trying to seed a new practice. Very in 2024 we tried to do some, 2023-2024 we tried to do something around sustainability, but I mean that was towards the fag end of my stint, but yeah, that we were always trying to explore what new can we do. That's always been a hallmark.
Great. And in this entire journey, I mean, how important you feel is culture building in the organization, because I think you all were working with a very young crowd, so to say, or young workforce, which tends to, and now it's become even more evident that there's no pressure handling skills, or they would want something more, they would need a balanced life, etc. So how did you all approach that aspect of the business?
Yeah, again I think we caught some lightning in a bottle, right? It was a very unique culture. I can't exactly place How we managed to get there, I'm sure it was our leadership skills and all of that. But it was a phenomenal culture, and it just goes to show, like so many people, I spoke about the long stints.
Yeah.
There's another 2-3 other interesting angles. We have so many boomerang folks, right? People who work with us for several years, then leave, but then come back. I think we had 2 people who had boomerang twice, and we would tell them कि बस तो अभी तो जाना नहीं वापस, you know, because they went once, they came back, they went again, they came back again. So I think we had a few people who had boomerang twice. We had last 4 years in a row we were a great place to work, certified organization. We had we I think, you know, I don't think we ever how do I put it, the culture was almost organic. It stems from the leaders. The way Sanjay and Harish manifested, the way I manifested, it stemmed from there. We had the leadership team that we built, we used to call them HODs. It stemmed from each one of them. So it was kind of organic. I don't think now what I see is a lot of people, you know, they beat a lot of drums about culture. We didn't do that much drum beating about it. It is, but on ground it was very much
so it was not marketed or branded in a certain manner.
Yeah,
but it was there.
It was, and it was really amazing. And you know, even today with the new company, so many of my folks who are there in the new company are all ex Mirum. My co-founder is one of the HODs at Mirum. So it was really lightning in a bottle. Very rare to see this kind of culture. Like I said, it stems from the personalities of the leaders, the 3 of us co-founders also, as well as the phenomenal leadership team that we built over the years. Yeah.
And you know, because you've seen like more than a decade and a half in terms of how digital or advertising has sort of progressed. What do you think is the future now? You know, because there's so much noise when it comes to AI, when it comes to most of the jobs at stake and stuff like that. So what do you think, according to the journey that you've seen, would be probably 3-5 years from now? What should be an approach for an agency, or how do you sort of look at what is the conversation that should happen with the clients?
Yeah, in my opinion, there is a lot of churn happening in the industry, and I believe the only way to build a sustainable business today in the agency world or in the services world is if you are able to build something unique. For example, either a skill set that not very many people have. I feel it's very difficult to build a strong sustainable agency business until unless you build some unique skill set. So 2 things, either you build a very unique skill set which others don't have. Like for a very long period of time, that MarTech thing that we built was very unique. Uske baad, of course, a lot of people build it up. Or the social listening thing that we had was very unique. In fact, one of the founders who's built a social media tool, amazing social media tool, he once told us that a lot of the people in the industry built their social media practice, social listening practices mirrored on what we had built at Social Learning. So for a while we were unique in that space. So either you build a very unique practice, or you do something which is vertical specific. Okay, so one of the things I'm very, very proud of is a lot of people who were ex-social wavelength, especially the leadership team and all, they took up entrepreneurship later, right? Makes me feel very, I'm very proud of each of them. One of my friends and ex-colleagues, he started a agency which is sustainability focused. So their entire work will be in some way linked to sustainability. Maybe we can link to their website in the description. That's a very now that's again just like you're building a unique skill set. Can you take on something very unique, either an industry, either a vertical, either you know this point of view कि हम लोग जो भी करेंगे वो sustainability focused से करेंगे. It's almost like identifying a niche and then trying to become close to a monopoly in that niche. That's I think the only way for you know agencies to build a sustainable you know business in the future. I'm not talking about the big daddy agencies, WBB Publicis. उनको तो I'm nobody to tell them what to do. I'm talking about somebody who wants to start an agency, who wants to build an agency business. I think these are the two things that one needs to focus on.
Sure. So, okay. So, what I get from that is don't play the generalist game overall, right? Either you pick up an industry or you build something which is not happening, which might be possible today considering that AI becomes such a big support to even build that, right?
Absolutely.
Right. Okay. And I mean, for someone who's just starting up, right? And it will be a huge, you know, task to even get to these kind of clients, right? While you know, social wavelength had that advantage of you know, okay, this is what was starting off, and you know, you. So I think बहुत कुछ वैसे ही sort हो जाएगा if you're building something unique, or if you're having industry specific, or if you're doing example something which is very strategic, unique. Let's say even in influencer marketing today, and you're sticking to that vertical, and you're just going deep into that. How does one solve a problem of just getting to a set of client? You know, because I think there might be, I don't know, 60,000-70,000 agencies today. How do you know, communicate to them? Do you still advise that you know, just keep knocking the door and you know, talk to them, give pitches, or should there be a unique strategy of you know, sort of being in touch with the client and approaching?
In my opinion, if you are able to do, if you're a generalist, then things are, you know, then you have to rely on, you know, your contacts and you know, interactions that you've had with clients in the past and so on.
Right.
If you are going to follow one of these things, either build a unique practice or, you know, dominate a specific niche, then things become easier, because then you can build a reputation in that, around that practice or in that niche, so that clients come to you, right? I mean, that's ideally what you want, that you know, if you are able to build a, let's say, this sustainability niche which is there, right? Now the idea behind sustainability niche is that and he this friend of mine, Arvind, he is the voice in that space. Like अगर आपको sustainability related कुछ करना है या कुछ जानना है या कुछ किसी से बात करनी, he is the person. So you have to go to that guy, right? That's the advantage of building in a niche. Of course, the best practices of you know, running an agency and growing an agency, they remain. There's literally a book about it. I don't remember the name, but what I can do is, after our recording, I'll send you a photo of that book. Maybe you can add it over here. Fantastic read. I don't think it's in print anymore. So I also got a second-hand copy from somewhere. I'm happy to share it if you want it or if anybody wants it. There's literally a book being written about best practices of building a services agency business, how you should model it, how you should grow the business, all of those kind of things, right? But I would say today your best chances of success are building specialization and building in a niche.
Right, great. And we're looking at the other side, you know, I mean, if you've taken entrepreneurship really early in your life, I think you were 26? 22, right? And at that age, and then entrepreneurship really demands no weekends, probably sacrificing a lot on the personal side of it. How did you balance that? You know, I mean, of course, for you there was one part which was really on your side, is that you met your wife very early on and you all had similar dreams, right? However, if I look at the world canvas, how would someone and what helped you, make a balance at home and sort of run the entrepreneurship journey as well?
Yeah. I mean, I don't really know an answer to that question again, because it's like I don't look at it as कुछ sacrifice करना पड़ा ऐसा तो, like it's a maybe it's a mindset thing कि if you really want something, then giving up something else is not a sacrifice. It is a sacrifice only if you want both things and then you're giving up one, then it's a sacrifice. But if you really want one thing so much कि बाकी फिर मायने नहीं रखता है तो फिर वो sacrifice ही नहीं है ना. तो I don't think I have made some big sacrifice कि मैंने ये नहीं किया वो नहीं किया. I'm pretty happy with the decision I made and I ran behind that decision, and maybe I couldn't do XYZ things because of this decision which I made, but I don't consider that a sacrifice only. I mean, I can't even think of what is it that I had to give up on. There's one thing which I should have done much more, which I didn't do, which is focus on my health, which is a more recent thing for me, which I agree. But I don't think I couldn't do it because of I couldn't give it time. उस वजह से नहीं किया पता नहीं. It was not somewhere in my focus, which was wrong. It's a mistake which I'll correct. But so I can't really answer कि how did you balance and all that, because I don't view it from the perspective कि मुझे कुछ बहुत बड़ा sacrifice किया मैंने, right? Like it's like I think Steve Jobs या किसी का तो वो quote है ना कि making a hard decision is not about saying no to something which you anyway don't want. Making a hard decision is about saying no to something you really want and really like, but on the principle of that this is more important, you leave that out, right? Prioritization. तो मेरे हिसाब से तो वो चीज़ें जो मैंने ये prioritize किया तो वो चीज़ें तो they were not important for me, so I don't even consider them sacrifices.
Got it. And also I think somewhere if you really love what you're doing, you manage at the other end. Probably if you're not happy in what you're doing.
Correct. Or you don't miss it. Like I know, like for the last so many years, there was a period in which me and my wife used to watch shows. So many years I have not watched a single show. Like especially in the last recent years, I don't miss it. It's like, do I consider it a sacrifice? No, I mean, ठीक है. It's like it's part of the. I mean, it's not even in my consideration set. So I don't consider it only a big sacrifice. But if you kind of somebody looking outside can say, "Arey, he doesn't have time for whatever entertainment," then उसके judgment में वो हो सकता है. मेरे judgment में तो it's nothing.
Okay. And one aspect, Meher, that I look at is, and this is something that when you look at the human side of it, when you are running a business, and especially it might be there in other industries also, but in advertising, in marketing side, there's a lot of office politics and the entire dynamics between agency trying to impress the client and the client acting pricey. All of this happens a lot. How much do you think the human values or principles come into picture, or do you separate that while doing a business, or do you feel नहीं करना है तो ये ethical है, it might come around at a later stage if I stand by my principles, या कुछ कम रहेगा चलेगा, but these are the principles that I want to follow. Do you think that anywhere makes a difference?
Yeah, so I think there are some non-negotiables.
Okay.
Those should remain non-negotiables only.
Okay.
But
so can you give me an example of that? Like when you're saying something is absolutely
like I mean, there are some obvious ones like trying to cheat somebody you don't want to do that.
Absolutely.
Right? You don't want to. When there are people who have been with us now over the course of so many years, there were thousands of people who work with us.
Right.
Vast majority of them, I would say, would have great things to say. There might be some exceptions, of course, but because we kept those human values, human principles, they were always there, which we didn't compromise on.
Right.
But there are a limited set of those principles which are non-negotiable. Beyond that, you have to find a way to do the dhanda also, no?
Right.
So doing that dhanda might involve things like, might involve us to make practical decisions. Right now, I am not going to extend my circle of non-negotiables and make it so big कि मैं धंधा ही ना कर पाऊँ.
Right.
वो तो नहीं कर सकते ना.
Right.
That doesn't make sense, right? Like, are there times when, you know, मुझे एक sale करना है, I want to sell something, and I have to take a decision कि okay, here I'll not make money, but over a year's time, 2 years time, I'll be able to make money from this client. उसके पास बहुत काम है. Now there are people who will say कि मेरा काम अच्छा है तो मैं आज क्यों कोट कम करूँ?
Right.
That is impractical, right? So now it's like I can't say कि मेरा principled stand है कि मैं कम price पे काम नहीं उठाता. Then तो बस धंधा नहीं होगा, right? Without cheating, without doing all of that, it is possible for you to enter the client once, and if you build a relationship of trust with the client खुद सामने से बहुत काम देगा.
Right.
So what I'm trying to say is, there are some non-negotiables, they should remain non-negotiables, whether it's cheating, whether it's treating someone fairly as a human, whether it is, so there are whatever those set of principles.
Right.
But you can't extend that non-negotiables का circle to so wide a thing कि तुम impractical बन जाओ, right?
Got
So
it.
that is a place where balance is very much needed.
Right. Got it. Perfect. Now coming to the second innings, so to say, I think a lot of people might be unaware, or they are still trying to figure out changes that happen post 40, 45, 50 when they turn at that age. Courtesy science, I think the age number is increasing.
Yeah.
However, we are not too sure about the quality of life. Right? So if you can just help us understand what was the thought process when you started Meru Life in terms of, okay, यहाँ से branch out हुआ, was it some incident that happened, or a brainstorming?
Yeah.
How did that sort of come on the table?
Yeah. So back in 2024, I was still running Mirum at that point in time. Sanjay and Harish had already moved on from Mirum, but I had met them for something, we had some discussion, and in that discussion this topic came up about building something for seniors. Now both of them were already in their 60s, so
Right.
for them, or they were 59, 60, so for them it was like a very natural thing to be thinking about. And both of them are very much part of this business also. So Sanjay is an investor, Harish is an investor, as well as he serves as our chairman also.
Okay.
So they're both involved in this business, very much so. But in back then, in that 2024, in that year 2024, there were several incidences that had happened in my life also, in our personal life also, which maybe offline I can share that with you also, but which made this senior, or तभी तो made the needs of people who are in their 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, it had become very, it was top of mind for me, or it was salient for me.
Okay.
Right? So that discussion, so normally it was 2024, and I was also thinking how long to continue at Mirum, what to do. There could have been many thoughts that keep coming to mind. But as an entrepreneur, you entertain some ideas, and many of them you forget about also.
Right.
But because of those things which were happening in my personal life also, this discussion about doing something for people in this age group, 50s, 60s, 70s and all of that, became very salient in my mind.
Okay.
It became very, it stuck. So when I moved on from Mirum, and by that time, Harish and Sanjay, they both kind of made some progress in this space. When I moved on from Mirum, this became like the thing I wanted to do. Like I immediately after moving on, I met Sanjay, I met Harish. With Harish, I said that, I want to, so Harish, by that time, he had already kind of moved ahead with the idea that इस space में कुछ करना है, क्या करना है, कैसे करना है. Some very early thoughts were there. Then I said, okay, I want to come on board. This is something I want to do, because like I said, because of those things that had happened in my personal life, it was absolutely top of mind that there needs to be a set of products or services or solutions built for India's 50 plus audience, which just don't exist in the market. And that's how I came on board. I joined as a co-founder and CEO of Meru.
Got it.
That happened in 2025.
Got it. And what is the typical mistakes, or I don't know if we can call it as mistakes, but what are the 2 or 3 aspects for someone who's hitting 50 which they are ignoring as an insight, which you all were trying to address? कुछ आया होगा क्या, नहीं ये तो कोई कर ही नहीं रहा है.
So actually I'll frame it in another way. The people who are in their 50s and beyond, there are several things that are on their mind, right? So for example, they are thinking about their own physical health. They are thinking about how do I continue to live a life of purpose after my life transitions in some way. Maybe if I'm a business owner, my next generation will take over the business, or I may retire at some point, or if I'm a homemaker, maybe my kids are going to move out. So my life is going to change. How do I continue to live a life of purpose after that? People think about their financial health and well-being. People think about the fact that how do I spend my time in a more engaging manner? Where will I get my social connection from? When you're working, for example, or when your kids are around, you have 7, 8, 10 hours of social connection every day. What happens thereafter, right? Mental health is a very, very unsaid thing. You don't think about mental health, and a lot of people in this age group face mental health challenges. Now, what is happening is that nobody is building solutions for this audience in any of these areas. So, just to paint a picture for you, there are 25 crore people over the age of 50 in India today. That number is going to reach close to 60 crore by 2050. Okay, so while the whole world and everybody is talking about millennials and Gen Zs and Yuva Shakti and whatever it is, all those are very important, no doubt about it. But in percentage terms, the fastest growing cohort of the Indian population is 50 plus. That's one thing that is happening. This audience has all of these different needs that I spoke about. They're thinking about their physical health, they're thinking about how to live a life of purpose, they're thinking about their financial health, they're thinking about their social health and companionship, they are thinking about how do I engage my time in a better manner. They may not be articulating it, but mental health is a big part of what is on their minds. They are thinking about all of these things. But nobody is building solutions or products for them, right? They are either expected कि जो बाकी population के लिए वो आपके लिए है, और आप उस कैटेगरी में चले गए हो कि आपको इन होम केयर की ज़रूरत है, आपको पैलिएटिव केयर की ज़रूरत है. बट स्पेशली ये 50 to 70 वाला ऑडियंस तो वैसे नहीं है. दे आर वेरी थ्राइविंग, they have a lot of energy, they have a lot of desire, they have a lot of ambition, but nobody is building something specifically for them, right? These are people who are quite wealthy because they are the ones who benefited from economic liberalization, privatization, so on and so forth. They are very digitally savvy. Plus they are facing a change in the way our society itself is structured. At one point in time, if you were living in a family with your kids around, even when the kids grew up, a lot of the things in your Maslow's hierarchy of needs were taken care of by the fact that you were living in a joint family. Now, of course, 70% of the families that got formed in the last decade in urban India were nuclear families, right? Increasingly, people are also entering into this age group as husband and wife with no kids, or single parents or single people. So the structure of society also is changing. So just imagine the scale of this change that is happening. Fastest growing cohort of the Indian population, they have money, they are digitally savvy, Nobody is really building for them, plus the structure of society itself is changing. The way I look at it from an entrepreneur's standpoint is, what a massive opportunity this is, right? This is a massive opportunity for us to build for this audience.
Right.
And I look at it that, you know, this audience deserves products and services which are built specifically for them, not some one size fits all, right? So we are approaching this business in a bit of a mission oriented way. We think is धंधे में धन और दुआ दोनों कमा सकते हैं. That's the way we kind of look at it. And we think we can build a sizable business, at the same time potentially impact several millions of lives very positively. So that's the thought process that we are looking at this business.
Got it. So yeah, so I mean, like you said, there are different aspects that a 50 plus age group goes through, right? I mean, it might be physical, it might be nutrition deficiency, it is mental health. What is the initiative addressing currently? And if you can just detail that out, what aspect are we sort of really covering as a solution?
Sure. So the flagship product that we have right now is a product in the category of senior nutrition. This is a portfolio called Meru Actives.
Okay.
Meru Actives essentially are nutritional products that are designed specifically with the 50 plus audience in mind. Okay. And the reason we chose nutrition as the first bull to grab by its horns is because it is probably one of the biggest challenges that this audience faces today. So we actually conducted a survey, and in that survey we spoke to people in this age group, and we found that the two biggest things that are on their minds are their physical health and living a life of purpose. These are the top two. And we chose physical health because we thought we could build a tangible solution there. Within physical health, nutrition plays a large role.
Absolutely.
And what is happening is that as you age, the body's ability to absorb nutrition from even the healthy, nutritious food is reducing.
Right.
So obviously one should focus on healthy, nutritious food, that goes without saying. But as you age, your body's ability to absorb the nutrition from that itself goes down. It's a typical process of aging. And that is where you need to look at supplementation, nutraceuticals, nutrition products to augment what you're getting from the healthy, nutritious food, right? Now what happens is that the traditional products in the market, which are, let's say, a supplement product in the market, again has the same problem, that just like your body after a certain age is not able to absorb nutrition from food, it's not able to absorb nutrition from a traditional supplement also, right, which is meant for the general population. So for example, if you go to the Western world or Japan or one of the older countries, if you go to a like a medical store, modern trade medical store, you'll see like an aisle full of nutritional supplements, and you'll always see 2-3 shelves which are full of products specifically designed for 50 plus people, 50 plus, 65 plus, 80 plus, right? We just don't have that in India today, right? Because somewhere I feel this audience gets a bit ignored. So we are trying to build products which are specifically designed for people in their 50s and beyond, with bioavailability as a focus. So that's the keyword. Bioavailability means the product should be such that a 50 plus person, when they consume the product, their body is able to absorb nutrition from that product. So the portfolio of products that we have, they use a technology called phospholipids. And phospholipids essentially is the same material that your cell membrane is made out of. The phospholipids technology makes the product such that the nutrient is more bioavailable to the senior's body, to the 50 plus person's body. So we've tied up with a life sciences company called VAV Life Sciences, and these guys are the absolute leaders in phospholipids technology. The largest nutrition brands in the world are their customers, and they sell pretty much across the world. And for India, we are using their products, their ingredients, and making these phospholipids based, highly bioavailable nutritional products. So that's the first product line that we've launched, and I think for the foreseeable future We are going to focus heavily on nutrition. We should soon have other allied things also. We'll have nutritional consulting available on the website, for example. We should have several other allied things. So our focus for the foreseeable future will remain on Meru Actives, which is our nutritional product brand. Of course, our long-term vision is, can we build out in multiple categories, because this audience does have, it does have needs across so many different categories, but nutrition is the big one. Right?
So, over 3 or 5 years, what kind of impact do you foresee these products making to that entire age group overall?
Yeah, I think one of the things that we want to do is that there is a lot of education required in the category, where the biggest kind of competitor I say is not like any other brand or something like that. It's actually this belief that my nutrition habits of my 30s and 40s are going to serve me well in my 50s and beyond, which is not the case. One needs to have healthy, nutritious food, no doubt about it. But is that alone going to suffice my body's needs over the course of my 50s, 60s and beyond? The answer is no. I mean, the science is, and it's there on our website, and the science is out on that. You need to use specially formulated supplementation and nutritional products, which will, again, the name is supplement, right? So they don't, you have to have great food. These are going to supplement what your body can't absorb from the food, right? So the big thing for us is this education challenge, that we need to communicate and educate this thing to lakhs of people, crores of people, and then get them to adapt to this change of the fact that this is not a medicine very clearly, but I have to consume it and in many cases on a regular basis, so that I support my body. What we see is that a lot of the people in this category are very, very ambitious. They want to thrive, they want to get the most out of their lives. It's not always just a longevity conversation that I want to live longer. That's a different conversation. This is a conversation saying that in my 50s, 60s and even beyond, I want to maximize what I do with my life, right? So there are a lot of people we see in this age group who are starting businesses. They are taking up things that they've not been able to do for the rest of their lives. Focus a lot on their fitness, do a lot of travel, spend a lot of time doing mentorship, giving back to society. So many different things they want to do, right?
True.
And they would be much better at doing whatever those things are if they paid attention to nutrition and supplementation and so on and so forth. Right? So we are like an enabler. If we are able to do this education, if we are able to make some of those small habit tweaks of apart from everything else you do for your health, also do this one thing, we think we can play a enabler role in helping them get the most out of their life in their 50s and 60s.
So in a way, I think also someone who really does all the hard work in their mid 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s is the time when you actually can enjoy, reap the benefits of whatever you've accumulated, right? Whether it is that I want to go on holiday, I want to take up that hobby which I couldn't ever, but the only thing that can stop them is the physical capabilities, that okay, abhi, that is what is holding me back. So possibly that is the lens that everyone should see it from.
So the way I would look at it is, it's not that they are not already doing some of it, right, but they want to get the most out of their lives, right? For that you need to make sure that okay, like look at a product like the phospholipids omega-3, right? It is going to have significant benefits on your brain health. Now, a lot of people, especially those who've worked hard, who are achievers, who have done great in their work, in their life, in their careers, in raising their kids, they are very particular about the fact that they don't want cognitive decline to happen. They want their cognitive abilities protected. They want their brain to remain healthy. So even if they are right, so this one benefit itself can be a significant impact on their lives.
Right.
Or for that matter, let's take a product like D3, which has phospholipids, vitamin D3 plus K2. One of the systems that D3 plays a role in regulating is a system around mood and anxiety and so on and so
Right.
forth, right? It is so critical. You may have all the material wealth in the world, but if this one system of yours is not functioning to the best of its ability, it's a challenge for you, right? So,
Right.
these are products that are designed to help you get the most out of your life. You may already be
Got
doing
it.
some things, but how do you get the most out of it is what these products are
Got it.
specifically designed.
And so, how does one start? You know, like if I'm in that age group, I might be in a particular journey. Do I visit the doctor? How do I evaluate? How do I take a decision of which supplement out of these 5 is the most, or do I take a blanket all 5? How will that work?
Great question. So, firstly, you know, this is something that I put out this message on our socials also. Everybody who's above 50 needs to make this resolution for themselves. If your parents are in your 50s or 60s, you need to make this resolution on their behalf. Make sure they are getting their blood tests done at least couple of times a year. Okay,
Right.
that's like a must. So that's always a great starting point. If you don't know what you need, if you
Right.
don't know what you need, get your blood tests done, speak to a professional. That professional will help you identify if and what are the interventions as far as supplements are concerned.
Right.
Many cases, the people who we talk to in this age group, they already have a fair bit of idea about their health, right? To them, what I would say is, if you're in your 50s and beyond, if you're already taking a vitamin D3 supplement, switch to our product because it's designed for you.
Right.
If you're already taking an omega-3 product, switch to our product because it's designed for you.
Sure.
For the rest of the things, I would say let a professional recommend it. What I would suggest is that if somebody doesn't have a nutritionist that they work with, that's a service that's available with us. So reach out to
Okay.
us, go to our website, on social, comment on this YouTube video,
Sure.
and we'll be able to help you. We have nutritionists on board who can, if you had a nutritionist, what that person would do, our nutritionist
Right,
can also
right.
do for you.
Great.
They can evaluate your current needs and then help you decide which supplement you need to take.
Right.
Definitely don't take like all.
Sure.
Specifically, I would say D3 and omega-3 are great starting points, especially if you know for sure. If you don't know for sure, your professional can help you or our professional can help you. Make an informed decision, and
Right.
I think that's the way to you know, go about your health in any case, to make an informed decision. Yeah.
Got it. Got it. Great. And so, moving on to, you know, last section in terms of, you know, you've had, you know, like a big journey, building up an agency, building up, you know, in a way, brands, ideas, taking that decision of entrepreneurship right in the beginning. If you have to, you know, sort of spell out that, okay, these are few things that you need to make sure that you do to ensure that you know, you are working towards a successful, whether, I mean, it might be someone who's into a job, someone who's trying to build you know, a business. What would be those 2-3 things that comes in your mind that, okay, you know, these are like must have efforts that you put, and similarly, what are the things that you need to really avoid to you know, something from your learning that you have, that you know, sort of notice that, अच्छा मैंने ये किया था, I think this should be left out, and then it will be much fruitful journey. If you can tell the audience that.
Yeah, I think one is, of course, you should you know, you should pay good attention to what market to build in. I would always say that you should build in a market which itself is growing, a market where the underlying trends themselves are supporting you, whether it's a job or a business. I mean, you'll be much better served working in a faster growing market, in a market which is going to reward your specific skill sets or capabilities. I think that's definitely a must. Other than that, the way I would look at it is, you should be very careful about the people you work with. If you're able to identify the right people to work with, then in the deepest and darkest times also, the people around you are what will carry you forward.
Right.
I think that's a very, very critical thing. And then of course some of the things that I mentioned, as what are going to be required in the future, I think those are very applicable.
Right.
You need to work with, you need to hone your ability to learn new things. That's going to be a non-negotiable. And you need to work with agency, which is that the fact that you have to be the kind of person who is able to make things happen, not allow things to happen to you. I think if you keep some of these things in mind, it will go a long way in in having a great career or business or whatever.
Right.
That's
Right.
the way.
And what are the things that you should completely avoid? That ये तो
I mean, वैसे तो बहुत सारी चीज़ें हैं which you should avoid. I would strongly recommend avoiding things which are this kind of zero sum sort of mentality, कि वो अच्छा कर रहा है तो मेरा बुरा हो रहा है, या मैं अच्छा करूँगी तो उसका बुरा. That's like a zero sum mentality. I mean, you are playing your own game. You decide what are the metrics for success for that game, and then you play that. So that I think is a very important thing. Too much of short-term thinking also is bad. I mean, short-term thinking is good if it helps calibrate. मतलब इतना धंधा हुआ क्या, इतना सेल हुआ क्या, वो ठीक है. बट दैट शॉर्ट टर्म थिंकिंग कि मुझे जल्दी कुछ चाहिए, मुझे आई वांट टू मेक I look at a relationship as a transaction. These things are almost never going to have a good outcome. Long-term thinking is far, far, far better because of, amongst other things, compounding, because of, amongst other things, the trust that gets built up. When we used to hire people, especially in the early days when we had to hire and train, the amount of value that person could add in their second year was much more than in their first year. Third year was much more than second year, fourth year. So, there was a value in us treating them well. The selfish outcome out of that was they would stay with us longer and we would get more value out of it, right? So that's the symbiotic nature of long-term relationships. So, so what you should avoid is the short-term transactional kind. So first is thinking of things in zero-sum kind of thing. Next is short-term transactional, never kind of has a positive outcome. And I think, I mean, I am a believer in karma in some way or the other. So you should avoid doing anything which has a negative hit on your karma. However you kind of want to interpret that statement, you should avoid doing that, because I see this in my life. I don't normally try to do things, but kuch, if I do something 19-20 also, it comes back to bite me. So now I've trained myself here, let's just do it the right way, right? There were times when I was younger and all that, especially कि अरे यार ये कुछ 19-20 का ये है. Now I just avoid it. It just always, it never pays dividends. So I think these are 2-3 things. वैसे तो बहुत बड़ी लिस्ट है. Don't do drugs, kids. Like वैसे तो बहुत बड़ी चीज़ें हैं, बहुत सारी चीज़ें हैं. But I would say these are some of the ones. I would say.
And one final aspect is because today we live in a world of social media reality, right? I mean the digital personality or the image that one follows is very glamorous, and the fact that everyone, I was seeing a reel where someone was stating that about 70% of the iPhones today are on EMI, where people can't afford it, but they're still sort of going ahead and buying it. So from an approach point of view, how do you place money or that the return or the entire lifestyle aspect of it when you're building the career? Because that, I mean, for me is a good sign-off point where a lot of people today might be thinking that okay, I will do it because I'll be able to get an iPhone, I'll be able to sort of go on, because they see instant gratification, right? They're someone or the other on the reel is going to a great holiday, they're going to Bali, they're going here and there, they're driving great cars. but of course no one knows the backstory of an individual. So when you, because you built it, what would you say the relationship on the money or these gratification should be when someone is focusing on their career?
Yeah, so I think it's a great way to keep score. How much money you make and all of that is a great way to keep score, no doubt about it. But I think you have to look at that as a byproduct of creating value, right? Like there is this whole thing that value or valuation mein you should create value. Valuation तो अपने आप होगा, right? Like this is about entrepreneurship and all that. But value अगर आप create कर रहे हो, and then if you are able to make money out of it, and then that money is something which is you deploy towards some guilty pleasure, like a vacation, not even guilty pleasure, some pleasure that you deserve, like a vacation or a phone or whatever. That's fine. I find it very circumspect when people take take out loans to buy things which are you should not be taking a loan for, like especially depreciating assets पे लेने के लिए, which is not like an urgent emergency, whatever it is, उसके लिए आप loan ले रहे हो. I find that like I've seen really crazy cases of people burning their fingers because of this. So I would strongly avoid that. I think there are now, thankfully, we spoke about in my business also, I need to educate people. I think thankfully there are a lot of education, like there are a lot of people educating younger audiences about the importance of how to manage your personal finances and so on and so on, which frankly speaking 15 years back when I could have used it, that was not there, so I had to figure stuff out on my own. But today there are so many great creators and teachers and people who are teaching people to be financially responsible. I think everybody should teach, pick that up as a core skill. But yeah, I mean, in general, taking a loan for a depreciating asset until unless it's like very critical for some reason is a tough choice according to me. Yeah.
Right. Mir, any final thoughts? Anything that you would like to talk about from as a final word or an advice for people to follow when we are talking to an audience who's looking at building something on their own, or something which they might be serving right now within an ecosystem. Any final words that you would want to put across?
Yeah, I think this whole concept of creating value, I think, is very important. If you are able to do your job or your work or your business in such a way that it's actually creating tangible value for some stakeholder, you almost cannot go wrong, right? If you're in a business which is, you're fully building it on perception, you're fully building it on how it looks to the world, that's tough. But if you're creating tangible value for the person in front of you through the effort of your work, you almost cannot go wrong. That's the way that I would look at it. That's on overall building side. Another piece of advice now, which is related to the work that I'm doing right now, it's something I said some time back but bears repeating. If you're in your 50s or 60s or 70s or beyond, or then you need to make this resolution for yourself. Or if your parents are in their 50s, 60s and beyond, then you need to do this on behalf of them. That they need to approach their health in a much more thoughtful manner, and the first step towards that is kind of getting a blood test done, figuring out what your various parameters are looking like, and then working with a professional to figure out what are the gaps that need fixing, and then fixing that in a very deliberate manner. It can go a very, very long way in maximizing what you get out of your life. So that's a message. It's almost like a public service message that I'm saying every opportunity I get, every person I meet, I'm saying it like a broken record. So I think that's something I want to say.
Lovely. Yeah. Great. Thank you so much, Mir.
My pleasure.
Very insightful. And the entire perspective, especially on the age group of 50 and above, is very eye-opening, because when you say the number is going to be 50 crore plus, it's a huge population. Absolutely. And I think that's something that needs to be sort of taken care of.
Absolutely. Massive population.
Lovely. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thank you.